Hey guys, I'm Nick and welcome to this new tutorial where we will take a look at some vellum ropes and some knots and how to dynamically kind of spawn or grow these ropes and tie some knots on our carabiner collider object. So to begin with, I was debating between wire solver, which is kinda a bit outdated but it works well with a rigid body solver, or creating ropes in vellum, but then vellum cannot actually work with rigid body colliders. But stay tuned for the next week's tutorial, because then I will share with you a setup where we have a soft body that reacts to the vellum strings which we are using to create ropes. So yeah, this month will be mostly about vellum, and then in the end of the month we will have some RBD setup inspired by Man with Machine, by the way. Anyhow, here we are in Houdini. As you can see, all is very default, as we usually have RS Light Dome, which is this brown photo studio which I'm using everywhere. I have my grid, which is for reflections. Primary array visible is unchecked, and visible in refractions is also unchecked because I want to render alpha, but I want to get some GI from that background plate. And of course my camera, which is set to vertical format for Instagram Reels, because right now you can love or hate Instagram, but for me and for a few freelance 3D designers that I know, Instagram Reels is the best way to get eyes on your work. Right now, at this moment, it might change in the future, but for now, yes, we're rendering vertical. So focal length set to 80. Is my default kind of, that portrait focal length. But yeah, let's get to our ropes. So of course ropes are curves, and before we of course convert and resample them, but ropes are essentially curves. So what you can do is drop this curve node, and yeah, it's just like that. So you drop the curve, and what I suggest you to do when you will be creating your ropes is, of course, you should visit some sort of website with the guides for how to tie knots, and I think it was allknots.com or something like that. You can just Google that and it will give you the step-by-step instruction how to tie knots. So what you want to do is create a kind of a loose shape of that knot, so then you can try and grab the edges, the points of the rope, and just pull them with a group selection. But for now, for these curves, actually you can shift, or actually Command 2 or Command 3 or Command 4, or on the Windows it will be Control. But yeah, basically it switches between all these views, and you see that I have perspective view, top view, front view, and right view. And I want to start creating my rope from the front view. And for example, if I pressed the enter, so I can start just very basically creating the shape of my knot. And for the most basic knot, it would be like this. I assume it would be this, and then this goes here. Now you can see that it's not correct because it's all in the one point position on z-axis, so we need to somehow like make some wires go under another wire. Good way here in the front view, I know that this point should be more closer to me if we are looking in the front. So I can switch mode to this select and edit mode. I can click on this one, and then I'm holding middle mouse button and I can drag it on the x-axis. Same goes to this one. I want to be it here, or actually no, I want it here. And then we have this, which should be there, and then this one I assume goes a bit here, and this one too. So your main idea here is to avoid intersections, right? When you have set your kind of very rough setup, now you can go and select each point and go and select, I assume, yeah, this one. This makes selected points balanced, so it will just smooth it out as a proper Bezier curve. So this is your kind of default workflow, which I've been following to create this curve here, which you can see if I will drag this point and this point here, I will just tighten that loop here. So for now, it doesn't have any points that we actually need because it's a Bezier curve. What we need to do is to convert to polygons, and then I want to resample it a bit. We will be using subdivide and vellum post process and all that stuff to make it smoother. For now, it's just resampling it very, very slightly. Then I want to add these pin groups. So I drop this small sphere here, and I have my group node, which is connected to the resample here. Group name, in my case, is set to pin 1, group type is set to be points, and bounding type should be bounding object, and keep in bounding region should be enabled. So main thing now is that we can transform the points of our group, and it will be interpreted as if we would kind of grab and pull that point there. So I have my transform here. You can see that I'm targeting only group 1, or pin 1 actually. And here I'm keyframing the Y position of that group, Y and actually Z. So you can see that I'm pulling that point. Right now it's just extending, but when we will have constraints between these points, it will actually work as a pulling motion. Then I have another group, which is pin 2. Same settings here and same sphere here. And I have my transform for the pin 2, which in my case is just, it goes up slightly because I want to decrease. Actually, I want to give some room for this rope to go up, and I want to leave just one tiny kind of tail here, if we can say it like that. But basically, this is how you actually apply kind of like real life forces, real life pulling motion to our ropes here. Of course, I want to attach some constraints, so I set this vellum constraint type to be string. Mass should be set to calculate uniform, and thickness, and this is important, should be set uniform. So what you want to do here with this thickness is, because we have resampled it, you see that we have a set distance between these points. So what you want to do is set your thickness to be that number that won't overlap here. So you can also check this visualized thickness, of course, to see it better. But basically, we can go up until something like 75, I would say. This is bad. So yeah, 74 was what I was using here, 0.074. So then I drop the out rope 1 geo null and out rope 1 con null. And these will be used in the DOPNet that we will be using here. And we will be creating our vellum solver in the DOPNet. So this is for your basic rope setup, and I needed another rope, which is, yeah, a bit more complex. And I think I actually followed some guides from All Knots, or I don't remember actually that website. But yeah, it should be a very, very quick Google for you. Anyhow, I have my group. This group is static here, and this pin 3 is actually dynamic, so it goes. So how much to transform these points? It's actually a trial and error thing, because when you will play your animation, you will see you can basically, like, your animation goes, and you will see some artifacts, or maybe claws will just detach because it cannot resolve, cannot calculate so much forces applied. Your kind of collision constraints will break. But basically, if you see that at the frame 120, for example, the knot looks good, it doesn't jiggle too much, and it does not break the constraints. You can see here at the frame 121 we have 9.89 at the y-axis, and you can just copy this number here and apply it to your target keyframe at which you want it to be fully tightened down. So yeah, that's about our ropes. Vellum hair. Of course, I forgot this one. So this is actually very, very crucial. We don't need pin 1 though, but to make our strings to actually react to our pin groups, we should pin them. here, pin to animation. So what I have here is pin points should be pin 1 and pin 2. Here it should be pin 2 and pin 3. So in volume hair here, you can see that I have pin to animation, and pin type should be set to soft, and it should match the animation. And then these constraints will actually inherit these groups transformations. For the stretch stiffness damping ratio set to 0.01. For the bend, I think it's all absolutely default. So now we have everything that we need to go into our DOP network. What I have here is my static object that we will be talking a bit later, but I want to just talk about what we have here. So we have two volume sources. One is our outrope 1, and you set the subpass to be outrope 1 geo, and constraint subpass should be outrope 1 constraint. You click on this one, and here you have all of your out nulls. And you have your volume source 1, volume source 2, and you merge them and plug into this right input of the volume solver. In the volume solver, default thickness in this case is set to 0.11, and also substeps is set to 2, and constraint duration set to 200. Also, I wanna add slight velocity damping, so it's set to 0.1. If you see that your ropes are jittering too much, or maybe you have some artifactings, your ropes are going through the collider, try increasing the substeps here or constraint durations, and also maybe you will need to increase the collision passes. So optionally you can add wind either to one or another. In this case I'm adding a bit of wind to this rope, because without it probably I can play it and you will see. So I'm rotating my collider geometry just for a bit more interesting result, but you can see that my rope gets stuck here. So I needed a bit of additional wind, additional force, and you can see that here at the frame 30 it's -5, and at frame 90 it's 0. So it's just a little breathe of wind that makes this rope actually go to the center here where it will be tightened down, and you can see how beautifully it tightens. Right now I'm not worried about this little stepping going on here, because it all will be smoothed out with a post process and some subdivisions. I added pop wind, just a bit pop wind from frame 60. It's 0.8, amplitude set to 0.8, swirl size set to 2, pulse length to 3. And at the frame 150, I'm turning off that wind, amplitude set to 0. Also a bit of pop drag with an air resistance of 4, which is actually pretty crucial because it helps with the jitter just a bit. So yeah, and my static object, which is my collider shape, this carabiner here, use deforming geometry, use object transform, and create an active object should be checked. So yeah, that's it for this volume solver, and you can see that our ropes actually tighten. So let's get back to our DOPNet. We don't need our collider geometry, because default here in object you will have this this Shift 8 sign, and you don't need that because you will be applying polywire, and you don't want to apply polywire on this shape of the carabiner. So you can click on this drop down and select volume object 1, which is what you actually need. Then you can cache it out. I'm caching 240 frames, and then optionally you can apply volume post process. I actually haven't applied it, but you can go with a Catmull-Clark subdivision depth set to 1. Don't know if you actually need that, because we will have our subdivision here, but yeah, why not? And a bit of spatial blur also helps, so at 0.5 should be good. So then I have my split here, and this split is because after we do poly wires we lose our groups, because here you can see that I have my stream volume source 1 and stream volume source 2, but we are losing these groups here, and that's why we will be using this split node, which will split our input geometry. This one will be splitted by this group stream volume source 1. So here you can see that I have my stream volume source 1, and here I have everything that's not stream volume source 1. So here's the thing with this growth effect that I created. We can use this curve node to animate the start and the end of the row which is displayed right now. So here you can see that let me turn off the volume post process for now. You can see that first U is set to 0, second U is set to 0, and I'm animating the first U in a time span of 210 frames. This volume wind is for this more like an organic swirl that you can see here. So yeah, this is how we can kinda mimic that growth effect. And Bezier curve is set to ease out, I would say, because yeah, I don't remember to be fair which one was ease in and which one was ease out, but basically we start fast and then we slow down to the end. And same thing goes with this curve node for the first rope. Here you can see that first U and second U is set, both of them set to 1, but I'm animating second U to be 0, so we are growing it from that one little tail that we have. Then we drop the polywire. Polywire should be also default. You should play with this wire radius, to be honest, because sometimes it's too big, sometimes it's too small. But don't forget that after you subdivide it, it will be a bit less thick. And after that, very important part is to drop a normal, and then drop your material, which in my case is rope material V1, and absolutely the same thing goes to our curve 2. And now I can merge them together and merge them with my collider, and now I have this perfect animation of tightening some knots with these ropes. Let's talk about the collider a bit. So this is the carabiner model that I've got from GrabCAD, but it needed some optimizations, and there will be a separate quick tip video about how to actually work with these ugly CAD models, because hands down people that are modeling this in sort of Autodesk software, they are genius and they are brilliant people, and they actually share these models for free on GrabCAD, but they need pretty serious optimizations, and I will definitely cover that in one of the quick tips in this month. But yeah, anyhow, I have my carabiner here. I convert it back to polygons. I attach UVs, I attach normals, then I make it smaller, and then I add this transform effect, which is just a very subtle rotation. Not so subtle, but it goes, and yeah, that's it basically. I have 2 materials attached. I have groups here, so it's frame, leg, locker, and pin here, and I have one material for all of these parts here, and I have another material which is more like a textured metal, bumpy metal for this part, where you actually you pick and slide it down to open the carabiner. And yeah, then null out collider that we were using in our DOP network. And yeah, then we merge it all together and we should have our animation done. I'm not sure if the result actually changes somehow if we enable that volume post process. Yeah, slightly changes, but I think we don't need it actually. Yeah. So yeah, let me fire up my Redshift render view and we will take a look at the materials I'm using. So I need to add another paint type here, a new paint tab type, Redshift render view. Let's save the project, and yeah, we can fire up our Redshift render and select OBJ Cam 1. And let's go to the frame 210, so we have everything tightened down. So what I have here is a few interesting things. So here's my rope material 1, rope material 2. If you are multi-solver patron, you will have all of these textures because they are free. But basically it goes like there's a base color, roughness, and of course the normal map that I'm using here for these bumps. Oh, but why it should be a row, actually, not sRGB. Yeah, all your roughness and height maps, all of them should be a row. Let's get it back to row here. So for the rope material is basically just these textures. And I'm using this RS color correction because this texture is basically grayscale, and I'm applying a bit more saturation. I'm shifting the hue, so I'm getting these two beautiful colors. For the grid material, it's very basic material, which is just white grid with a bit of roughness. Then let's go check this locker material. Locker is this one, and I'm using this diamond plate material for my bump map. Again, should be set to raw. For the roughness, again, some sort of metal roughness, and preset here is set to aluminum. Metalness set to 0.693. And for my default material, like frame material, you can see I have some bumps and scratches here. So yeah, again, I'm using some sort of a normal map and metallic texture, and all the frame is aluminum here in the preset. Again, all of these assets, this carabiner and all the textures are in the project file folder that you can download. The post will be on Patreon for everyone who is multi-silver. But again, all these textures, I just found them from Google and they are completely free. You can use them without attributions. So yeah, and I mean, I rendered it out, exported it into After Effects, added a bit of motion blur, retimed it a bit, and here we have the final result. Alright guys, I think that's it for this tutorial. I really hope you liked it. There are tons of stuff I'm preparing for this month, so hope you stay tuned, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!